In football, there's what looks good and there's what actually works. For Birmingham City in 2026, the question now is whether Knighthead want to persist with a possession-based identity or pivot towards the uncompromising pragmatism of Sean Dyche. The 2-0 win over Wrexham AFC should have felt like a reset, a release after weeks of pressure. Instead, it feels more like a delay of judgment. It ended a winless run stretching back to March, but it hasn't altered the scrutiny surrounding Chris Davies. Sitting 15th with 4 matches remaining isn't stability, it's underachievement presented as control. This was a squad assembled with back-to-back promotions in mind, not one drifting into mid-table obscurity. The gap that once separated Birmingham from League One has dissolved into something far less convincing. Davies speaks of avoiding relegation, of restoring a baseline, but that tone feels disconnected from the level of investment and ambition set by Tom Wagner and the ownership group. At St Andrews, survival is no longer a goal, it's the minimum requirement, and when the minimum becomes the message, patience begins to wear thin. It's in this context that Dyche's name emerges, not simply as a rumour, but as a statement. Raised by Jason Moore of Football League World, it functions less as a suggestion and more as a challenge to the current direction. Dyche's record speaks for itself: multiple promotions to the Premier League, European qualification with Burnley FC, and a reputation for maximising limited resources. He represents the opposite of what Knighthead initially set out to build. Where Davies looks to control matches through possession, Dyche imposes order through structure, territory, and directness. It's football stripped back to its essentials. The dilemma is clear. Continue with a philosophy aimed at long-term identity but currently producing inconsistent results, or shift to a manager who offers immediate competitiveness at the cost of stylistic change. Ignoring Dyche would overlook a proven model. Appointing him, however, would signal that the current approach has yet to deliver. This tension isn't new at B9. It echoes the decision to replace John Eustace with Wayne Rooney, a move framed as progress towards a more modern, possession-based style, but one that ultimately led to regression. With Davies, that same philosophy remains, yet the results are still uneven. The issue now is less about whether the idea is valid and more about whether it fits the present moment. Is this a project that simply needs time, or one that lacks the physical and tactical base required in the Championship? Dyche offers a contrasting answer. No emphasis on aesthetics, just a system built to win duels, manage transitions, and collect points. For a club that has spoken openly about identity and modern football, turning to Dyche wouldn't necessarily be a step backwards, it would be a reset. A shift towards becoming difficult to beat before becoming attractive to watch. Behind all of this sits Craig Gardner, whose role in recruitment, squad balance, and tactical alignment is now under increasing scrutiny. A managerial change of this scale wouldn't be cosmetic, it would require structural adjustment. Dyche doesn't inherit systems, he rebuilds them. That means different player profiles, greater physicality, and fewer compromises. There's also the question of feasibility. Dyche has been linked with Premier League roles at clubs operating at a higher level financially and competitively. Would he return to the Championship? And if so, under what conditions? Financially, philosophically, and culturally, this wouldn't be a straightforward appointment, it would be a defining moment. With 4 matches left, every drop point sharpens the contrast between Davies' vision and Dyche's shadow. So, the decision becomes unavoidable. Do Birmingham City continue with Chris Davies, trusting that cohesion and control will eventually translate into results? Or do they pivot, embrace a different model, and prioritize immediate competitiveness? At its core, this is no longer just about a manager, it's about identity versus outcomes. What matters more right now? How Birmingham play or where they finish?